So when you're writing dialogue, it's usually necessary to tell your readers who's speaking, and there's two main ways that you can do this: action tags and attribution tags. Now, attribution tags attribute the dialogue to a particular character using a form of the verb said. So, for instance, what's in the case, says Ringo. Action tags, on the other hand, describe an action that the speaker does, and the assumption we make is that the person who did the action is the same person who's speaking. So, for instance, Ringo points his gun. What's in the case? So here are three rules for using action tags and attribution tags. And the first thing to point out is that they are punctuated differently. Attribution tags are usually part of the same sentence as the dialogue that they attribute. Says Ringo is not grammatically complete, so you don't start a new sentence after what's in the case. So the word says isn't capitalized even though it comes after a question mark. But in contrast, action tags usually form sentences separate to the dialogue that follows. Ringo points his gun is a complete sentence, so it's ended with a period. We then start a new sentence for what's in the case. And you can't replace the period with a comma because a comma can't connect two independent clauses. 2. When writing attribution tags, just write he said or she said. Don't write he opined or she espoused or he retorted or she interjected or he exclaimed or she wheedled. Just write he said, she said. Jim said, Hermione said. Occasionally you might be able to get away with he shouted or she whispered or maybe even he asked. But 90% of the time, he said, she said. 3. Don't use adverbs or otherwise over-explain your dialogue. Don't write that he said tetchily or she said angrily or he said curtly. We should be able to tell how your characters speak from what they're saying, and if we can't, then the dialogue's probably not strong enough. So write dialogue that is tetchy, that is curt, that is angry. Here's an example of some really good dialogue, snappy dialogue.
What's in the case?
My boss's dirty laundry.
Your boss makes you do his laundry?
When he wants it clean.
Sounds like a shit job.
Funny, I was thinking the same thing.
Open it.
Afraid I can't do that.
I didn't hear you.
Yes, you did.
What's going on?
So we got a vigilante in our midst.
Shoot him in the face.
I hate to shatter your ego, but this ain't the first time I've had a gun pointed at me.
So how might we present this dialogue in prose? Well, maybe something a wee bit like this. But there are several errors here. The first thing to note is that since it's Ringo who says what's in the case, that line of dialogue needs to be moved to the same line as Ringo's action tags. We put that up there. Then the next thing we need to correct is this. The first problem here is with the punctuation. Because it's an attribution tag, it shouldn't form a new sentence, because says Jules Riley isn't grammatically complete. And the other problem is the adverb Riley. I mean, the dialogue is right, so let's not insult the reader by explaining that. So we can just change that to a simple says Jules. Here's another change that we can make. I mean, I would prefer Ringo says to Ringo demands, but because at this point there are only two characters interacting, and because the speaker on the line above was identified as Jules, we can delete this tag altogether and it will still be clear who's speaking. And down here, this is really over-explaining. I mean, obviously there's tension in the room. They're in a standoff and one of them is pointing a gun, so we can cut that. This is another over-elaborate dialogue tag. The simple says Yolanda is as far preferable. Here there are two problems. It's an attribution tag, so it shouldn't be a new sentence. And the dialogue is impetuous. That's a judgment our readers are capable of making for themselves. And similarly, instead of writing remarks Jules Cooley, let's leave the judgment to the readers. Our job is to provide them with the facts. And let's use the invisible said instead of the obtrusive remarks. Are we happy? It certainly appears so. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your writing.